مهر منصوری هستم، مادر ثریا قویدل و کارگردان تئاتر کودکان در نیویورک. Really ask myself, why am I an actor? Why did I want to do this? Am I really just in it to be on camera so I can tell people I was famous for 5 minutes? Or do I really want to tell a story? And who's going to want to hear my stories? I studied theater with the most elite writers and scholars of theater at the University of California in Irvine. These are people who do theater for research, not just showtime and entertainment. They're really committed to looking at the roots of theater and how it has impacted the world from thousands of years. One of my professors was Jerzy Grotowski. He's one of the founders of modern theater who looks at the authenticity of theater from the poor to just staging in abstract ways. So I had these great influences, and I was so embarrassed at the idea of working with kids because I knew that they were not going to be hip and cool and intellectual. This was in Los Angeles in the late 80s. I really felt that waiting for some agent for talent to call me to say you got 5 lines so that I could sit in a trailer for 8 hours to say 5 lines and then go back home and tell everybody that I played an Arab terrorist wife for a TV or film, funny ones, sad ones, scary ones, and then wait again for agent to call. I just thought we are given so many talents in our lives. I was born in Iran, Tehran. هر دو مادر پدر ایرانی هستن و خاله و عمه و همه با هم در 9 سالگی تونستیم من و خواهر برادرم بیایم انگلستان. Iran was for me a nostalgia and family and beauty and 4 تا فصل and nobody and no country has ever given me un nostalgia, 4 seasons, 4 تا فصل. My father was in import-export business, but his life was making movies and documentaries and stories, and so I was always pulled into storytelling through the way he would find stories from family, from history. My mom was always into design and decor and beauty, so there was ways of telling a story without words. ولی مامانم هم از یک لاین of فامیل و پدر و مادر هست که همشون قوت زبانشون خیلی عالیه. فکر کنم از این فرهنگ داستانگویی و ادبیات خیلی بیشتر رو من اثر کرده که when I got to England دیگه اونجا شکسپیر و مارلو و دیگه تئاتر و کودکان در تئاتر خیلی تشویق می شدن. تو ایران یادم نیست زیاد تئاتر و تاریخ تئاتر و داستان رو صحنه زیاد تشویق بشه. اتفاقا خیلی هم برعکس همیشه یک نوع یک جاب خیلی بدی رقاصیه. حالا رقاصی هم چیز خوبی به نظر من، ولی تو ایران تشویق نشدیم. ولی ایران اون فرهنگ ادبیات و زبان و شعر رو واقعا تو رگ خون فامیل ما اثر کرده بود. Arriving to England was a temporary idea. We had no idea we were going to end up abroad for the rest of our life. I was raised with this philosophy that all religions are one, all people are one, you know, one faith, one God, one mankind. So really this was just an extension of our belief in practice. So here I am, a Persian Baha'i girl from Iran in England, don't drink, don't smoke, and to be able to just embrace the culture and respect them and still have my own identity, I think was a real training for being a world citizen, really understanding what we're talking about when we want to preach to the world about oneness. You have to sort of know how to be yourself, but assimilate with the world. In England, we were then exposed to theater and language and culture, and it was there that I knew that there is an opportunity to do theater as a profession. And in Iran, It was never mentioned as an option.
There are so many questions that need answers, like how do we get so many people of different races and nationalities to accept each other?
I went to a camp for a summer as a theater director, and I saw these children's faces and their desire to learn, and the power of music and the power of theater. And then I put the show in front of their parents, and the receptivity of these parents wanting their children expand their minds. And these were kids who were poor kids. So I realized, my goodness, anybody who wants to be a writer, an actor, a producer should start with kids, because you have a built-in audience. Their parents are going to support you. The kids are desiring to learn. And for me, it was a no-brainer to find a way to be a writer with the best possible audience of kids and parents. So I started there, and I didn't tell anybody for years. But then, you know, the kids' shows were something different. And the themes of the plays were not the usual Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast and افسانه و داستانهای مختلف. ما واقعا سعی کردیم داستانهایی که درباره یک چیز گنده تری باشه و هم موزیک توش باشه، هم رقص توش باشه، ولی افسانه های قدیمی که معنیش هم دیگه معلوم نیست برامون معنی نداشت. And took on themes that were big kids themes, you know, human rights, the environment, race unity, advancement of women, literacy, poverty, and nobody thought anybody would want to have their kids in this. So I brought Broadway composers, pianists, people who wrote fun musicals, but we brought the meat. Somebody said we serve broccoli, vegetables, and nutrition under lots of cheese and goo, and it's all hiding under there. So it's a way of telling theater, engaging kids.
We're all people, not superior. The Indians are not inferior. As their guests, we must learn to share. To our native friends, let's be fair.
Those Indians are uncivilized. As devils and spirits they are disguised.
He's a scoundrel, a hypocrite. He'll purge himself, he'll admit.
Quite honestly, coming back to where I had come from, I couldn't be from an Iran who suffered the way it had in finding itself and rejecting itself, and then coming to another country and pretending it's Italian and pretending we're white and pretending we're not Iranian. All these self-doubts that comes from leaving Iran and being Iranian, and the human rights issues for my family especially, and Baha'is as well. So I thought, how can I be an authentic storyteller and not tell the American idea of the terrorists and the Arabs and the whoever. So I thought, I'm going to find a way to tell the story of our family's journey, of our culture, but I'm going to tell it through characters that the American students can identify with. So we got into stories right out of American history.
I won't betray his trust, though people say I must. I've got to stay true, just.
One of the great approaches we have to digging up the beliefs, even my own, is to start the rehearsal process with a values clarification exercise or game, where we will say, okay, I'm going to put a 1, a 2, and a 3. 1 is I agree, 3 is I disagree, and 2 is maybe. And I'm going to give you a statement, and I want you to pick a spot. So the question might be, women who work in the home work less than women who work outside. 1, I agree, 3, I disagree, 2, maybe. And people will go to their positions. And then you say, why are you in the 1? Oh, I believe that women who work in the home work twice as hard because sometimes they have to be everywhere. And everyone will make a case. But then what happens is you start listening to the children and the adults. We work with their parents. And what are your beliefs? And then when they listen to each other, sometimes we ask them, does anyone feel they got new information and that their thoughts have altered? And then you'll find them saying, yeah, I have altered my thoughts. I'm going to change my position. So what I've learned is I can have wonderful beliefs about the changing of the world and looking at race, looking at religious intolerance, looking at the equality of men and women, looking at education. And the beliefs are in a book until we relate to one another as a community, and then really test them by listening, and then finding what are other people's challenges. The one who has to have the job and be the homemaker, for example. We are not taking our show on the road. We don't think that's sustainable. What we want to do is impact as many children as possible. And children are impacted if they see a show, but they're more impacted if they're in the show. So we've created a model that is very easy to duplicate. That means the songs and the music and the scripts, even the costumes, even trained teachers are trained to go other communities and help them start their own. Really, 5 years after we started, we were immediately in about 7 states in the United States. And then we were invited to Cape Town, South Africa. We've been invited to China. We've been invited to England.
Fight poverty, invest in children. And here's my friend, Michael Douglas.
But this idea of global ethics through theater is such an easy way to get. We actually have measuring tools where children's vocabulary starts at 0 on their first day, and without having to do any memorization or exams or traditional testing, they have literally take the same vocabulary test, and 2 months later they have 90% increase in their vocabulary. So it's not just a kind of raising the spirit of the human spirit and looking at ways to be an agent of change, but it's also academic training, literacy training. I think women have the greatest impact on the family life and the greatest ability to see the other side of war and warfare. On the other hand, I think that we've taken the idea of feminism to its extreme, maybe to find middle ground, and it's time to embrace the middle. And what is the middle? It's just great to be a mother and to make impact like that. I mean, it's not about stations and status and your name in the paper. It's got to be that you see this opportunity to raise this child as the greatest impact you can make on the world. So for me, the traditional ideas of feminism are almost juvenile. They're young, they're undeveloped. I think that the men have to be the feminists. I think men who are feminists raise their children in a profound and meaningful way, where girls make good choices for their education, where girls, their daughters, make better choices of their husbands. I always tell my husband, who's a wonderful role model, that the more you pay attention to me and take care of my needs, the more your daughter is watching how she should be treated. She's going to look for a man who will treat her the way you treat me. And of course I love him and he's great, but every husband and wife has to look at how is their relationship impacting their child. And I think when men become real feminists, they become a much more accomplished man, and they will have the best impact on their daughters because they won't want to be treated that way and not replicate negative dysfunction. And the last part of my beliefs is really faith. I can have all the belief I want, but until I get up and try to put them into action, it's not a faith, it's not a belief, it's not an action. So I actually believe in this other piece of our human ability, which is having faith. It's something I can't describe, but faith is where belief and action has to come together. My advice to younger women is that they should look at opportunity meets preparation equals luck. There is no such thing as luck. If you have been preparing and you have a vision of who you are always in the process of becoming better and becoming who you want to be. You're always in it and you're doing it, and nobody has to call you to give you that job. I started out understanding a very American idea of an agent calls you, and until the agent tells you you're somebody, you're nobody. And it wasn't about getting my name in the paper, but it was about getting the work I wanted done. And more importantly, I did it with the idea that if I keep preparing, when the opportunity comes, it will be luck. So I think you can attract luck by being prepared and really having the vision and working tirelessly towards it. And then when the right door opens, when the right book comes, when the right person comes, you go through those doors. But I never will ever believe that you are only one thing and that you have to wait for someone else to tell you when it is.
To the children of the Children's Theatre Company, but particular thanks must go to the organizers who prepared them, Ms. Mehr Mansouri and her team. We thank you very much.